Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this is the Kia Picanto, and today we're going to find out if it's any good. Okay, so let's start at the front as we usually do, where I actually think that this looks quite aggressive and sporty for a city car. You've got Kia's now corporate tiger nose grille here, the new Kia logo which still says K backwards end to me, and you've got some quite aggressive air intakes down here on either side of the bumper, which really does make the front of the car look wider and actually a little bit sporty. These here aren't fog lights, these are your daytime running lights, which are halogen, they're not LED on this model. And then you've got a big air intake down here at the bottom, but it is quite short and stubby at the front. I don't know, just looks quite like it's trying to be aggressive, but we know it isn't really because of what's under the bonnet. Anyway, let's go and look at the side, because there we can see just how compact this car is. We've got 14-inch alloy wheels, we've got body coloured mirror caps, no special hiding of things going on here. You know, you've got body coloured bits in between the glass house. Normally that bit would be black. Yeah, it's just a basic car, and this is one of the basic specifications. So you can get the Picanto in 1, 2, 3 GT line, X GT line S and GT line S specification trims. That's 6. This is a 2, which means it's not quite the very basic car, but it has a couple of things on it that you might want. So for example, it's got electric windows. The very basic car, the 1, has nothing on it at all. It is just a car. It has keep fit windows and no aircon and all of that stuff. This is got a few things that you want, but when we get inside, I'll talk about why I think you need the 3 at least. Anyway, at the back, we get a reminder of Kia's trump card, the 7-year warranty, which is an excellent thing to have, especially on a car of this size and price point. We've got the name Picanto. That's sort of it. So let's open up the boot. I'm going to have a sit down actually, where you can see that there are 255 litres in this boot, which is, funnily enough, almost exactly the same. It is the same as the Hyundai i10 with which this car is shared platform. It's same as the Up, basically. It's better than the Toyota Aygo X. It's only beaten by the Suzuki Ignis, so pretty good going on Kia's part. You can also fold the seats down nice and easily. Just 2 levers on the top of the seats, push them down. Unfortunately, there isn't any false floor in this model, so when you do fold those down, there is a bit of a lip that you couldn't push things over. But the seats fold fairly flat. I'm not going to penalise it for that. It is a city car after all. But yeah, nice and easy to use, nice big shape. Bit of a big lip, but that's the same with all of this car's rivals. So what I'll do now is put those seats back up and then sit in them to see if all 6'2" of me can fit in a tiny little car like this. Hello. I'm actually going to show you getting in because this might be relevant if you're tall. This seat is set up in my driving position, as I just said, 6'2", 188 centimeters tall. So the doors open really wide, but because of how far back that seat is, you really do have to squeeze yourself in here and then watch your knee when you close the door. Once you're in, headrest up, I've actually got a decent amount of head space. I can sit nearly upright. My head does touch, obviously, if I sit all the way up, but you slouch or tend to try and slouch a little bit if you can. What I will say is I can't put my knees in the middle of the seat. If you were below 6 foot, I think you'd be a lot better. But Yeah, I'm not. So I'm not. My knee is rubbing up against the door pull here where my electric window switch is. So that's quite uncomfortable. I would probably want to try and sit like this, but I know if I do that and I was sat there, my knee would be jabbing into my back. So it is compact. That's just the nature of the vehicle. If you need a bigger car, you'll have to get a bigger car. This is the same in all of this car's rivals. I'm just tall. I can't really fit in the back of them, which is a shame because the rest of it is so good. In terms of features back here, there aren't any. You've got hard plastics on the top of the doors. You do, as I mentioned, have lecky windows here, which is a nice feature to have. You've got Isofix on both the outer seats. You can you? No, you can't sit someone in the middle because there's no middle headrest. So there you go. And thank God you can't, because I wouldn't want to sit next to me in the middle of this. There's no armrest either. There's a seat back pocket on this seat. Shall we go in the front? Right, well, thankfully I've got a lot more space up here. So let me talk you through this specification of the Picanto. So this is a 2, as I mentioned before. So there is no touchscreen in the middle. You get something that looks like it's from the early 2000s as your infotainment, which is where you can select your radio, media. You can connect your phone up via Bluetooth, thankfully, so you can play your tunes. You just don't get Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. That's the main reason that I would recommend going for the 3 specification, because in that you do get an 8-inch touchscreen display with those features in it. Below that, you've got your central air vents. Below that, you've got your direction of flow, you've got your fan speed, and you've got your blue or red. No climate control, just standard aircon, which can be turned on and off here. Heated rear screen. Below that, you've got a little bit of a shelf with a 12-volt socket and a USB-A charging port. Below that, you've got a perfect space for your mobile phone, which I'll demonstrate now. Unfortunately, it's not a wireless charger, although on high specification cars, you can get that. And on this car's sister car, the i10, you've got 2 what are supposed to be cup holders, but while a bottle of water fits perfectly in the door pockets, if you press these, it doesn't fit in there, unfortunately. So you'd have to have a skinnier bottle of water, or maybe an iced coffee or something would fit fine in there. You've got your 5-speed manual gearbox here and a proper traditional manual handbrake, which is actually quite nice. I don't really like all the electronic stuff. In front of me, I've got traditional analog dials, and then on my steering wheel I've got a few controls for answering the phone and muting the volume and that stuff, and I can change what's displayed in my little screen in the middle. That's really it. That's all there is to this. This is, you know, it's hard plastics and stuff. It's all very well screwed together though. You can't really move the central bit. This is hard again, but you know, it's built to a price. Maybe we should probably talk about that, because this car starts from just over £13,500 for the 1. This one's a bit more, about £1,000 more. Then again, another £1,000 for the 3. So if you can stretch to that 15.5, that's the one I would probably recommend. If you've got just money coming out of every orifice of your body, then definitely have a look at the GT Line S, because that car comes with a turbocharged 1-litre engine and it's fantastic. I've driven it in the i10N line video here, and that's a fantastic engine. Anyway, what I think we should do now is go out and drive this model without a turbocharger and see how it drives. Right, okay, so driving the Kia Picanto with the non-turbocharged 1 litre 3-cylinder engine. So you can get two engines, this one or the one I've driven in the i10, and I haven't driven it in the Picanto, but I'm going to guess it's exactly the same because they are the same car on the same platform. So if you want to know about that, watch the i10 video. If you want to know about this one, here we go. We've got 66 brake horsepower and 130 Newton meters of torque, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't. But this car only weighs 974 kilograms, so less than a ton. So you don't need all that much power to lug around because there isn't that much weight. Now that doesn't mean that it's fast. 0 to 60 is over 14 seconds and the top speed is 100 miles an hour. But you do not need more than that in this kind of car if you're just driving around town. If you're going to be doing longer motorway journeys regularly or driving on dual carriageways, I would recommend stepping up and getting the more powerful turbocharged engine, just because it's easier to get up to 70 miles an hour and easier to do overtaking on back roads. But this is perfectly adequate enough for the kind of car that this is. It's fast enough to keep up with modern traffic. It's actually quite nippy around town, in my opinion. First and second is where this car is at its best, in my opinion. I don't know, there's just something quite charming about a small, underpowered, light, wheel in each corner car. It's quite fun in that regard around town. You can basically drive this car flat out constantly without worrying about breaking the speed limit. You've got a 5-speed manual gearbox, which is actually a delight to use. This is a pattern in Hyundai Kia products. Even their normal models have really nice actions on their manual gearboxes. So although the rev line is 6,500 RPM on my dials in front of me, power definitely peaks before 5,500. That extra 1,000 is pretty pointless, and you can actually feel the car start to slow down once you go beyond that. So if you're wanting to have the absolute peak changes in your car, you're actually better off changing at 5,500 into third. I actually think that would be quicker to 60 than if you keep it in second and try and eke out that last few miles an hour to 60. This is obviously very relevant consumer advice for someone who's buying a 1 litre naturally aspirated city car, but I thought I would just mention it anyway. In terms of handling on B roads, I'm on one now. It is handling perfectly fine. It is not a Mazda MX-5, nor is it particularly sporty in any way, but whee! Tyre squeal, you can chuck it into a corner and it will grip. And as I said, you can drive this completely flat out pretty much all of the time, and it's quite fun. It's a little bit roly-poly, but we don't mind that. That's just providing more feedback to me as a driver. And the steering does actually provide some feedback. I feel like I know what the front wheels are doing, which you definitely don't get that in some of this car's rivals. Now on to some more consumery stuff. This engine is rated at 58 miles to the gallon on a combined cycle. This car is actually managing 61 miles to the gallon. That has involved quite a large amount of motorway miles, so that might not be a true reflection if you were driving it around town, but that's hugely impressive that it's beating the WLTP figures with me driving it. And I am not what you would call a conservative driver. Tax, it's the lowest amount you can pay nowadays. Insurance, it's one of the cheapest cars to insure in the UK. It's consistently up there with the cheapest to insure, so that is good. So it's ticking a lot of boxes in terms of value for money, and that is basically how I would sum this car up. It is just really fantastic value for money. It doesn't feel as inexpensive as it is to drive or to be in generally. Yes, you've got the old-fashioned infotainment in the middle. If you want rid of that, you can spend the extra and get that 8-inch screen with your Apple CarPlay and your Android Auto. Steering wheel feels nice. All the controls are light, easy to use, everything's clear, everything's well built. You've got the 7-year warranty for peace of mind. What's not to like? Anyway, that's probably enough nattering on from me, so let's go back and I will do a bit of a conclusion. Okay then, so that is the Kia Picanto tested. Conclusion time. I think if I was going to buy one of these, I would try and stretch to the 3 model where I got the screen with the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Those are just things that I want. But if you just want a car that does what a car should do, which is basically get you from A to B and don't care about any of the gadgets, what a fantastic car. Honestly, it's so honest, back to basics, and actually quite fun given its price point. But there you go. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, comment down below if you've got something to say, but most importantly, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified every time we make an upload. In the links below, you can find ways to follow us on social media. You can find ways to support the channel by becoming a member or buying some merch. But yeah, thank you, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.